What happens when a royal guest forgets that respect goes both ways? In just 34 seconds, one comment would turn a simple interview into the most explosive talk show moment of the year. This is the story of how Prince Harry walked onto a set expecting to be treated like royalty and walked off after crossing every line imaginable. Piers Morgan had been hosting his talk show for years. He built his reputation on asking tough questions. Sure, but always with fairness, always with respect. He gave his guests a platform to share their stories, their truths, their perspectives. And on this particular day, he was ready to do exactly that for Prince Harry. The prince walked onto the set with an energy that immediately felt different. There was a tension in his shoulders, a sharpness in his eyes. Piers stood to greet him, extending his hand with a warm smile. "Welcome to the show," Piers said. "Thanks for being here." Harry shook his hand, but barely made eye contact. He sat down, adjusted his jacket, and looked around the studio like he was inspecting it for flaws. Piers settled into his chair, ready to begin. So, let's start with something everyone's been talking about. Your recent comments about the press. You've been very vocal about feeling attacked by the media. Can you help us understand your perspective? It was a fair question, an open question, the kind of question that invites conversation. Harry leaned back in his chair. My perspective is that people like you have made my life a living hell. The studio went quiet. Piers blinked, keeping his composure. I understand you've had difficult experiences, but I'm here to give you a chance to tell your side. That's what this platform is for. A platform? Harry laughed, but there was no humor in it. You mean a platform for you to twist my words and make yourself look good? Piers kept his voice steady. I've never twisted anyone's words. I ask questions. Sometimes tough questions, yes, but that's journalism. That's what holds people accountable. Accountable? Harry's voice rose. You want to talk about accountability? How about you being accountable for the lies you've printed about me and my family? Piers leaned forward slightly. I've reported facts. If you have an issue with specific reporting, I'm happy to discuss it. But you can't just come on here and make blanket accusations. I'll do whatever I want, Harry snapped. Do you know who I am? And there it was, the first real glimpse of what this interview was going to become. Piers took a breath. Of course I know who you are. Everyone watching knows who you are. But that doesn't mean you get to come on this show and attack me without cause. I invited you here in good faith. Good faith? Harry shook his head. There's no good faith with people like you. You're all the same. Vultures. Parasites. The crew behind the cameras shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't banter. This wasn't a spirited debate. This was something else entirely. Piers maintained his professionalism. I'm sorry you feel that way, but name-calling isn't going to get us anywhere. Let's try to have an actual conversation. You mentioned feeling attacked by the media. Can you give me a specific example? Harry waved his hand dismissively. I'm not here to give you examples, so you can dissect them and make me look stupid. I'm here because my people told me I had to be. Your people told you? Piers raised an eyebrow. So you don't even want to be here? Would you want to be here? Harry shot back. Sitting across from someone who's built a career on tearing people down? Piers shook his head slowly. That's not what I do. I've interviewed thousands of people. I've given voices to those who needed to be heard. I've held powerful people accountable, yes, but I've also celebrated achievements and highlighted important causes. You're painting me with a very unfair brush. Unfair? Harry's laugh was bitter. You want to talk about unfair? Try having your entire life documented. Try having cameras follow you everywhere. Try having people like you profit off your pain. I understand that's difficult, Piers said, his voice calm. I genuinely do. But you're a public figure. You were born into one of the most famous families in the world. That comes with scrutiny. It's not personal. It's the nature of public life. Harry leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Don't tell me what the nature of my life is. You have no idea what it's like to be me. You're right, I don't, Piers agreed. And I'm trying to understand. That's why I asked you here. But you're not giving me anything to work with. You're just attacking me. Maybe you deserve to be attacked, Harry said coldly. The audience gasped. Even the cameramen looked at each other in disbelief. Piers sat back, studying Harry carefully. That's quite a statement. What have I done to deserve being attacked? You exist, Harry said. That's enough. Piers let that hang in the air for a moment. So, because I'm a journalist, because I do my job, I deserve to be attacked? Your job is ruining lives, Harry insisted. My job is telling stories, Piers countered. My job is asking questions that need to be asked. My job is not letting people, even royals, get away with saying whatever they want without pushback. Harry stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. I don't have to sit here and listen to this. Piers remained seated, his voice level. You agreed to come on this show. You knew what kind of interview this was going to be. If you can't handle a few direct questions, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews at all. Maybe I shouldn't, Harry said, pacing now. Maybe none of this is worth it. Dealing with people like you who think they're so important. I never said I was important, Piers replied. But I do think honest conversation is important. And right now, you're not being honest. You're being defensive and hostile for no reason. Harry spun around. No reason? You've spent years criticizing me. Years writing horrible things about my wife. Years making money off my family's struggles. And you think I have no reason to be upset? Piers stood up now, too. I've done my job. I've reported on newsworthy events. Yes, I've been critical at times, but I've also been fair. And I've never made anything personal. But you're making this very personal right now. Because it is personal, Harry shouted. Everything you people do affects real lives. My life, my wife's life, my children's lives. And I respect that, Piers said firmly. But you can't use your personal feelings as a shield against all criticism. You can't expect everyone to just agree with everything you say and do because of who you are. Harry pointed a finger at Piers. You don't get to tell me what I can and can't expect. You don't get to lecture me about how to handle my life. I'm not lecturing you, Piers said, his patience clearly wearing thin. I'm trying to have a dialogue with you, but you came here with an agenda. You came here looking for a fight. Maybe I did, Harry admitted. Maybe I'm tired of pretending that people like you deserve civility. Piers crossed his arms. Everyone deserves civility. That's basic human decency. But if you want to throw that out the window, that's your choice. Just know that you're the one coming across poorly here, not me. I don't care how I come across, Harry said. I care about standing up for myself. Standing up for yourself and being needlessly aggressive are two different things, Piers pointed out. You can defend yourself without attacking others. Harry laughed harshly. That's rich coming from you. What's that supposed to mean? Piers asked. You've built your entire career on attacking people, Harry accused. And now you're standing here acting like some paragon of virtue. It's pathetic. Piers's jaw tightened. I've never claimed to be perfect, but I've always been honest. I've always been upfront about who I am and what I believe. Can you say the same? What are you implying? Harry demanded. I'm not implying anything, Piers said. I'm stating a fact. You came on this show under the pretense of wanting to share your story, but all you've done is attack me. You're not being honest. You're being vindictive. Harry took a step closer. You want honesty? Here's honesty. I think you're a terrible person. I think you represent everything wrong with journalism. I think the world would be better off without people like you spreading poison. The studio fell completely silent. This had gone far beyond a heated debate. Piers stood his ground. You're entitled to your opinion, but you're way out of line. I invited you here with respect. I've tried to engage with you in good faith, and all you've done is insult me and insult my profession. Because you deserve it, Harry spat. No one deserves to be spoken to the way you're speaking to me right now, Piers said, his voice rising slightly. I don't care if you're a prince or a pauper. Basic respect is not negotiable. Respect? Harry scoffed. You want to talk about respect? Where was the respect when you were writing hit pieces about my wife? Where was the respect when you were mocking my choices? I never mocked you, Piers said firmly. I disagreed with you. There's a difference. In a free society, people are allowed to disagree. Disagree all you want, Harry said, but don't expect me to sit here and smile while you do it. I don't expect you to smile, Piers replied. I expect you to act like an adult, to have an actual conversation instead of throwing a tantrum. Harry's face flushed red. A tantrum? You think this is a tantrum? What else would you call it? Piers asked. You're yelling. You're making personal attacks. You're refusing to engage with any of my questions. That sounds like a tantrum to me. I'm making a stand, Harry insisted. No, you're making a scene, Piers corrected. There's a difference. Harry shook his head, laughing bitterly again. This is unbelievable. You really think you're the good guy here, don't you? I think I'm someone who invited you on his show to have a conversation, and you've turned it into a circus, Piers said. So yes, in this situation, I do think I'm conducting myself better than you are. Your arrogance is astounding, Harry said. It's not arrogance to defend yourself when you're being attacked, Piers countered. You walked in here with hostility from the very first moment. I've been trying to salvage this interview, but you clearly have no interest in that. Harry grabbed his microphone and yanked it off his collar. You're right. I have no interest in this. I have no interest in giving you more material to spin into whatever narrative you want. Piers watched him calmly. No one's spinning anything. This is live television. Everyone's seeing exactly what's happening. Your behavior speaks for itself. Good, Harry said. Then they can see me walking out on you. You're going to walk out? Piers asked. In the middle of the interview? Watch me, Harry said, turning toward the exit. Piers called after him. You know what this looks like, don't you? Walking out because you can't handle a few tough questions? Harry stopped at the edge of the set, turning back one last time. I can handle tough questions. What I can't handle is sitting across from someone who has no integrity. My integrity is intact, Piers said loudly. Can you say the same? You agreed to come here. You committed to this interview. And now you're running away because it didn't go the way you wanted. I'm not running away, Harry said. I'm choosing not to waste any more of my time with you. That's the definition of running away, Piers pointed out. Harry stared at him for a long moment. You really think you've won something here, don't you? This isn't about winning, Piers said. But if it were, I'd say the person who kept their composure and tried to maintain a civil conversation probably came out ahead of the person who threw insults and stormed off. Think whatever you want, Harry said. I know the truth. The truth is playing out right now for everyone to see, Piers replied. You're the one walking away. You're the one who couldn't keep it together. Harry's hands clenched into fists at his sides. You're impossible. I'm honest, Piers said. Maybe that's what you can't handle. Harry turned and walked toward the studio doors. The cameras followed him as he moved. Piers remained standing on the set, watching him go. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for what you've just witnessed. I genuinely tried to have a meaningful conversation, but sometimes, despite your best efforts, things don't go as planned. Harry reached the door and pushed it open hard. It swung wide, slamming against the wall. I hope at some point he realizes that running away from difficult conversations isn't the answer, Piers continued, addressing the camera now. We all face criticism. We all deal with people who disagree with us. The mature response is to engage, to explain, to defend your position with words and reason, not to attack, and then flee. The door slammed shut behind Harry. The sound echoed through the studio. Piers walked back to his chair and sat down slowly. He looked directly into the camera. I want to be clear about something. I have nothing personal against Prince Harry. I invited him here because I believe in giving people a platform to speak their truth. I asked him difficult questions, yes, but that's my job. That's what journalism is. He paused, collecting his thoughts. What you saw here today was someone who couldn't handle being challenged. Someone who expected to be treated with kid gloves because of his title. But that's not how this works. Everyone who sits in that chair, whether they're a prince or a plumber, gets the same treatment. Honest questions. Fair questions. But questions nonetheless. The crew remained silent, still processing what had just happened. I'm disappointed, Piers admitted. I really am. I thought we could have a productive conversation. I thought maybe we could find some common ground, or at least understand each other's perspectives better. But the moment he sat down, he came in swinging. He came in looking for a fight, and when he didn't get the fight he wanted, when I refused to engage in that kind of back and forth, he left. Piers leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Here's what bothers me most about this. It's not the personal insults. I'm a big boy. I can handle criticism. It's not even the dramatic exit, though that was certainly unnecessary. What bothers me is the complete unwillingness to engage in actual dialogue. He gestured to the empty chair across from him. That chair has held presidents and prime ministers, actors and activists, people from all walks of life. And almost all of them, even when we disagreed, even when things got heated, found a way to communicate respectfully, to make their points without resorting to personal attacks, to stick it out even when the conversation got uncomfortable. Piers shook his head. But not today. Today we had a guest who thought his status meant he didn't have to play by the same rules as everyone else. Who thought he could come in here, say whatever he wanted, and face no pushback. He looked directly into the camera again. I want the audience to know that I tried. I genuinely tried to make this work. I gave him every opportunity to share his perspective, to explain his feelings, to make his case. But he didn't want to do that. He wanted to attack. And when that didn't work, when I didn't rise to the bait, he left. The studio remained quiet except for Piers's voice. You know what the irony is? He accused me of lacking integrity, of being a terrible journalist, of ruining lives. But what did you see today? You saw me trying to have a conversation. You saw me maintaining my composure. You saw me treating him with respect, even when he showed me none. Piers stood up again, straightening his jacket. I've been doing this for a long time. I've had thousands of interviews. Some have been friendly. Some have been contentious. Some have been downright explosive. But I've never had someone storm off quite like that. And I think that says everything you need to know. He walked to the center of the set, his presence commanding. When you can't defend your positions with logic and reason, you resort to personal attacks. When those don't work, you leave. That's not strength. That's weakness. Piers looked around the studio, at his crew, at the cameras, at the empty space where Harry had been standing. I don't regret how I handled this. I asked fair questions. I pushed back when necessary. I refused to be bullied or intimidated. And I think that's exactly what a journalist should do. He took a deep breath. Look, I understand that being in the public eye is difficult. I understand that constant scrutiny takes a toll. I have empathy for that. But empathy doesn't mean giving someone a free pass. It doesn't mean letting them say whatever they want without challenge. That's not journalism. That's propaganda. Piers moved back toward his chair, but didn't sit down. The thing is, if he had just engaged with me, if he had answered the questions honestly, if he had defended his positions with facts and reasoning, this could have been a powerful interview. People would have listened. They would have understood. Maybe they would have even agreed with him. He paused, letting that sink in. But instead, what will people remember? They'll remember the insults. They'll remember the hostility. They'll remember him walking out. And that's a shame, because whatever message he came here to deliver got completely lost in his behavior. Piers finally sat back down, his expression serious but calm. I hope he watches this back. I hope he sees what happened here today. Not from his perspective, but objectively. I hope he realizes that this didn't have to go this way, that we could have had a real conversation, a meaningful exchange. He folded his hands on his lap. But you can't have a conversation with someone who doesn't want to have one. You can't reach understanding with someone who's already decided you're the enemy. And clearly, from the moment he walked in here, that's what I was to him. Not a host, not a journalist, an enemy. Piers looked directly into the camera one more time. To the viewers who tuned in expecting to hear Prince Harry's side of things, I apologize that you didn't get that. I tried my best to facilitate that conversation, but as you saw, it takes two people willing to engage in good faith. And today, we only had one. He stood up slowly, the weight of what had just happened visible in his movements. That's all I have to say about this. We'll take a break and come back with our next segment. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for watching what I know was an uncomfortable situation. The lights on the cameras slowly dimmed as the crew prepared to cut to commercial. Piers remained standing on the set, alone, the empty chair across from him, a stark reminder of what could have been. What started as an opportunity for dialogue had ended in disaster. Not because of the host, who tried to maintain civility and professionalism throughout, but because of a guest who couldn't separate his personal feelings from the professional setting he had agreed to enter. Piers Morgan had done what he always did, asked questions, pushed back when necessary, maintained his standards, and when faced with unprecedented hostility, he never wavered. He never stooped to the same level. He never compromised his integrity. Prince Harry, on the other hand, had shown up with an agenda that had nothing to do with honest conversation. He came ready to fight, and when he didn't get the fight he wanted, he left. In 34 seconds of mounting tension leading to that final door slam, he had proven every point Piers had tried to make about maturity and accountability. The host remained on set, professional to the end. The guest was gone, having burned a bridge he might one day regret burning. In the world of live television, anything can happen. But what happened that day would be remembered not for what was said, but for what wasn't. For the conversation that could have been, but never was. For the opportunity wasted because one person couldn't set aside their pride long enough to engage in good faith. Piers had kept his composure. He had maintained his dignity. He had tried, again and again, to salvage something meaningful from the wreckage. And in the end, that's all anyone could ask of him. He had done his job. It wasn't his fault that his guest had refused to do theirs.